All right. So this is the first episode of Launch a Revolution, the small business chat, and today we're going to talk about partnerships versus strategic alliances. So Donald and I are partners in Vicky Virtual, and we started our company in was it January 2015?
That would be January 1st, actually, of 2015.
Cool. All right. So my thoughts are on partnerships that you should avoid them if possible, and that in an ideal situation that you would be able to hire everything out and not have a partner, but partners in certain situations are the right way to go. I think it was in our situation the right way to go. And I think the big reason is that we didn't have the money, of course, to hire it all out. And before we started, we had already worked together a little bit, and through the cleaning companies that we did, we basically learned what our strengths and weaknesses were for the most part, I think. And we also learned that each other was like reliable and would get the work done and was dependable. So in that situation, I think when you have someone that has proven themselves to you as a reliable person to work with, a partnership can be the right way to go. Tony, have you ever had a partner in anything?
Yeah, actually, I'm doing two little side projects, I guess you'd call them. And, basically what we do is we just do like a one-page business plan, and we just have like a weekly thing like this, and we give each other tasks. And one of my projects, it's been going very well. The other one, the guy's a little flaky, so I've just learned that doing it that way is a really good way to just kind of see who's reliable or not, to see if they can complete tasks in 1 week. It's pretty basic, but I'm all new to this whole starting little projects with someone and kind of doing that kind of thing. So, but it's who I am. It's like I'm a photographer and all, but it's in me to experiment and try things, and, see what else I can muster up. So.
Yeah, I see partnerships. I think you should go through. I think it's very comparable to a marriage. In a lot of ways, I think that you should go through a dating phase where you
actually, kind of what we've been doing is like before we even put together like an official partner agreement, we're kind of more on the mindset of like, let's try to actually make like $100,
right,
and just see if we can do that, and then maybe look at the marriage license.
Right.
But first try to like make some money together, and just that's kind of how we've been doing it. It's very, all we have is just a little one-page thing, and then we do regular meetings, and it's, yeah. So anyways, I didn't get to hear, Donald, what you do or
Yeah. So
or how you know Micah.
Yeah, as far as myself, and my relation to Micah, I had a company called Rentobo with a friend of mine from high school, actually, and that was actually a Y Combinator company. We were venture funded, and so that company allowed me to sort of quit my job and just have more time to work on ideas. Started a cleaning company, had one that did pretty well, called Companion Maids. Our success with that led to taking over a smaller cleaning company in our market called Urban Home. And just looking to expand on that company. Micah and I actually around the same time were looking for a different way to get our phones answered. So Micah was doing a lot of cleaning himself, and along with his fantastic wife. and I was hiring it out, but there was just that in-between time where the phone was starting to ring too much and it was getting in the way of doing other things that we wanted to prioritize. So we were looking to hire it out, and we didn't like anything that existed. And then, of course, another idea pops in my head. Why don't we go ahead and do this ourselves? I talked to one guy. He was busy. I talked to Micah. It took maybe a half-hour conversation, Micah? And he was in. So the next day, we had a name. I think we bought a domain name within a day or two, and within a week we had a launch date of January 1st, 2015. We hit that launch date. And one of the nice things about Micah, in terms of why I even reached out to him so early, was, we had gained some familiarity with each other through Reddit, through some Skype group that we had morphed into or transitioned into. I don't believe the Facebook group was up yet.
I think it's just getting started. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so we did go through sort of that dating phase where we were both doing separate companies, separate cleaning companies, but we were talking all the time about our problems and helping. And at that time, it was the first company I'd ever been involved with, so I was totally new to everything. And Donald kind of held me by the hand a little bit through a lot of stuff because he was a little bit ahead of me in what we were doing. So we both got a taste of how each other actually worked. We're able to prove to each other that we could get things done, which I think is the
I'm going to shut my door real quick.
No, go ahead.
Yeah,
Adam, I can't hear him at all.
I can't hear him.
So are you guys both, so Micah, is this your Vicky virtual business partner?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Sorry. It's a little bit of a roundabout way of getting there, but yes.
Yeah, okay. No,
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so again, we were just sort of looking for a way to get our calls answered. We didn't like what was available, so we started our own. And Michael was great because he was a lot more interested in doing more content marketing, whereas I was more interested in the financial aspect of it and, putting a hierarchy together and seeing envisioning how we could scale. And so we've actually continued mostly in that role since we even started the company. So Mike had been more focused on a lot of our online marketing, a lot of our copy on our site. I built the original site. Mike over time refined it. And he's been a lot more involved in sort of, I guess, the COO side, where I've been a bit more of the CFO.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I think that's the most important thing when you're talking about a partnership, is a lot of times two people are friends and they're very similar and they have similar skill sets and similar ideas, and they decide to go into business together, and they realize pretty quickly that while they both have the same skill sets, there's this huge gap missing that nobody has a skill set in. And so Donald and I, one of the conversations we had before we decided to go into business with each other was we talked about our skill sets. And Donald and I we're drastically different people, but we see business pretty much the same way. So his skill set is completely the opposite of mine. So everything that I suck at, Donald is good at, and I think everything, for the most part, that Donald sucks at, I'm pretty good at. So I think that's very important when you're talking about going into a partnership. And the other thing is, if the other partner doesn't know what their strengths and weaknesses are, if they're kind of prideful and a little bit deluded about who they are, then it's not going to work, because anytime you try to point out, like Donald and I, it's like any marriage really, we have points where we get frustrated with each other and where we tell each other that you screwed up or that you did something stupid or that this needs to be changed, or we catch each other's mistakes. And in those situations, if your partner is not open and honest with themselves about who they are and what they're good at, then they're going to get defensive and they're going to get upset, and it's just not going to work. They'll never be able to admit that, okay, I'm not good at this. Maybe someone else should do this. And they also might not be playing to their strengths. And we really try to play to our strengths and identify what only we can be doing, and either let the other people or let the other partner do those other tasks or hire those other tasks out.
Yeah, and there's two other things to that. One is that there were some times where we got heated, but we never got personal, right? So it was always a business discussion, even if we were on completely both sides of the spectrum. We were able to eventually work out something because we're not taking cheap shots at each other. Everything makes sense on both sides of the coin. The other thing is that we both like the thing that we're working on. So we naturalized ourselves into role. I still don't know if we've ever really sat down and actually had a real line by line, okay, what are you doing? What am I doing? It's just, for the most part, for the most part, things just came up. For the most part, things just came up, and it was like, okay, I'll go ahead and do that.
And you know what? Who says there's really an official way to do this? I mean,
right.
It's just do whatever you guys think is right, right? I mean, is there really like an official way you're supposed to go about all this, or?
Well, you definitely want to do. What's up, Adam?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, like I said, I mean, it's like with a marriage, you want to do your due diligence on the other person. And the nice thing is when you do have a partner who has opposite skill set as you, and you've proven that you're both reliable, then you both, and what's happened with Donald and I is we both just kind of know, okay, we know what needs to get done, and we just do what we're good at, and everything gets done.
Yeah.
And we don't, I mean, this is maybe something that we probably should be doing more of. I mean, Donald and I really don't even communicate that much compared to a lot of other partners, because we just do what needs to get done.
Yeah.
So I think if you've got a partner and they're not at that level of reliability, you're going to pull your hair out forever, because you're always going to be on them about doing what they need to get done. And
it sounds like there's a synergy between you two.
Yeah, I guess you could call it that, but it's also kind of weird because this is like maybe the third or fourth time that Donald and I have even done anything over video. We do everything over chat, and it's somewhat infrequent. So I don't know. It's definitely unique. I think I want to go back to what I said originally is, if you can avoid having a partner, I think that is ideal, because when you go into business with someone, unless you've done, I mean, there's always going to be an element of risk, just like with marriage. You don't know for sure that it's going to work out, and the consequences are huge if it doesn't work out. But people get married every day. So it can work. But yeah, I do think that it's probably less risky if you can hire all that stuff out, or do strategic alliances or strategic partnerships where nothing is on paper and nothing is legal. But a lot of times what I will do, and I'm sure you know about this, Tony, Timothy talks about this all the time. Basically, when you have something to give another business or another person, and they have something to give to you, and you both need each other's skill set or resources or whatever, then you just swap it, and you don't have to put anything on paper. You don't have to sign anything.
Yep.
Adam, I'm sorry, man. I can't hear you at all. Yeah. Do you have a mic on your computer that you can use instead of the headset?
Are you using a Mac?
I should probably have my headset.
Still can't hear anything. So the other cool thing about Micah and I is we haven't met in person to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that's solid 6-figure company in a year, and we haven't met in person. I think it's just a true testament to the age we're in, and
Yes.
and also a testament to how honest we are with each other, how autonomous we can both be, and just how accountable we are to each other without having to constantly, be at each other's asses.
So, Tony, how did you decide to go into the partnerships that you're in now? How did you said you have two that you're in currently?
Yeah. Yeah. So a little bit of context is right now, of course, I'm doing commercial photography, but there's this kind of knife jabbing me on the insides, telling me that I can't scale it. It's really just a one-man show. Yeah, maybe I could have an assistant or whatever on a big shoot, with maybe like a production guy, but there's something like there's just something I have like an internal need of some sort to build something, something not huge or something like that, but just build something with a team or something.
Right.
That's the best way I can put it. So I go to this one called KC Roundtable. I do it I think it's every first and third Thursday. It's a non-lead gen group, and it's just entrepreneurs. And it's basically like a mastermind group. And so I met one guy there in person, and that's that little audio thing I showed you. And then I met another guy online through a Facebook group, photography group. And so that's why I met those two guys. And what was your question, though?
Well, I kind of wanted to know what criteria you use to decide
Okay.
whether or not to go into business with these people.
Well, let me see. So the first guy, I can't. There was no like hard criteria when I met him in person. The first thing is we just had lots of conversations, and let me turn this phone off real quick. And then we've met each other tons of times in person, and like I said, we kind of had a good what you call synergy or chemistry, and we just swapped ideas, and we're like, I like that idea, and we just decided to start working on it. There was no criteria with that guy. And I think I've lucked out because it's been going good. Okay, so with the other guy, again, no criteria. I just said, hey, let's try to build this thing. We might be able to make some money with this thing. And so far, we're a few weeks into it, and there's been some flaky things. So, and again, I didn't have any criteria, so maybe that's a sign. Hey, maybe I should start thinking about criteria and how I can filter out some guys. But I'm telling you guys, so far, like I'm had this kind of recent thing. It's like, like you said, Donald, it's like we're in this age where we can just get together online and start things. And so that's where my mind's at right now. But I need to, like Micah, you say, I think I need to work on some criteria. And I'm here to learn tonight, so I'm here to learn from you guys.
They have a track record that you could point to?
Yeah, the first guy does have a track record. Very, very smart guy. Graduated from Notre Dame. He's very young. He builds apps and all this type of stuff. So he's just an impressive young guy. The other guy, he has a website, but it's he has that kind of track record. And I've been. He was in. Okay, so when I started the Google photography thing, the 360s,
right?
He's one of the first guys in Canada to do it. I was the first guy in Kansas City to do it, right. And so we kind of had this. And there was a Facebook group with all the Google guys in there. So we had this connection through that, and so that's how we met him. So.
Well, again,
you guys hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, dude.
Oh, good. I switched to my phone because I don't know what's up with my laptop.
Oh, nice. Well, welcome.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having me. Thanks for putting it together.
I'm sorry, what?
I said thanks for putting it together.
Yeah, dude, absolutely. Have you ever considered a partner for your main company?
No, probably not. I prefer like, well, that's not true. I do have a partner. Like my wife is a 50-50 partner.
There you go.
And she's doing the day-to-day operations.
So it's the personification of both of what Michael was saying, marriage and a partnership.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, if those go well, they go really well, and if they go bad, they go really. I've seen them both. I've seen both ways. But yeah, I mean, if the person that you've partnered with in life becomes your business partner, and that works, then there's no better place to be in, I think, and that's really cool. And my wife and I, it's a lot of the same way. She does a lot of the work in our business as well. So it works for some people really well. But again, even with a partner, it's not something that I can just blanket recommend to everybody. Of course,
Right.
some spouses, it's not going to work.
Right.
And even with business partnerships, like I said, I think it's ideal if you can hire it all out.
Yeah, that's my view on it. That, especially at this point in my career and where the business is at, there's very few things that I wouldn't be able to outsource. And so to partner with somebody, they would have to bring like a really special level of energy and and vision. So in terms of having, for instance, like a technical co-founder versus like somebody who's more business oriented, I don't really believe in those kind of splits anymore. Only because what control is everything, right? You got to control your vision from start to finish, and you have to really set the tone when it comes to ambition. And at the same time, there's a benefit in not having to answer to anybody than yourself. And it's not to say, I mean, like you guys, your partnership, I've seen what you guys have put together and what you contribute to Vicky, and that's admirable, but it's rare. It's the exception, and it's I don't know if that's going to be easily replicated.
Yeah, that's all. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Donald.
Yeah, it's difficult. It's one of those things where it's when I first thought of Vicky, my very first thought was to have a partner. And honestly, the reason for that was I just wanted another way to sort of leverage, right? So, if I've already got 3 companies going, I really want to pursue Vicky. It's the sexiest idea I can think of at the time. I know Micah's, killing it, and he had the capability to kill it in something else, then, I'm down. And, I think there's a parallel to this thinking in terms of being extremely careful, not only with partners, but who your investors are. We've been really resistant to investment. And, there's 2 big reasons for that. And it's sort of the same thing. 1, you have to answer to someone else. And 2, if there isn't something outside of what's on paper that is a real benefit to the company, then even if there is an addition of cash flow, that addition of money, it's not necessarily going to help the company.
Question for you. So if you're in your partnership, obviously you guys have decided on percentages, right? And then so the one with the more percentage has the decision-making capability, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was actually gonna bring this up next. So Donald and I are 50-50 partners, which is it's a way to complicate a partnership even more because without someone with that veto decision, essentially, then you have to duke every disagreement out, and we do. Now, most of the time, we can come to an agreement just through giving our objective reasons and trying to use logic, and we can remain pretty objective. Sometimes we can't, and it's the same with marriage. Sometimes you'll get into an argument with your spouse, and somebody just has to give up. That's really one way to do it. Then what you do is if you yield to that person and they screw it up, then you can just that's your
that's it. Yeah. Fortunately, Obviously certain decisions can't be made in one or two or, a couple conversations. Some of it had to do with what a company did from when we started the conversation to when we made a decision on that conversation. Um, but yeah, it's really difficult being 50-50. I like it because all decisions that are made, that both people, once the decision's actually made, both people are behind it, right? So if one person overpowers the other, you don't necessarily have that, and so we don't have the we don't have the danger of having this huge rift based off of where we're headed because one is a lot more in the direction of what one person was thinking.
What kind of dispute resolution mechanisms do you have in place?
Well, usually it comes down to a consensus with our original employees. So the people who've been with us longest often are the tiebreakers if there's something that we absolutely can't come to an agreement on. Then we sort of defer to the people who have been with us since the beginning. And, maybe that's not the best way to do it, but it's worked really well for us so far. The other thing is, it's always going to be a risk. Partnership's always going to be a risk. And in the future, we may have a disagreement that we can't resolve. And then we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. But the ultimate thing is that we both have the same end goal, I think, or very close to the same end goal in this. So whenever we come to a point where we have to make a decision, we will present our arguments for which way gets us to the end goal the fastest or the best. And I mean, it's usually clear. There's a lot of evidence that this way will do it, and maybe not so much on this side. So we can duke it out and usually come to mostly an agreement.
Right.
And I don't think that there's anything either of us would make a decision on where if one person got their way, it would totally destroy the business. It may not be the best decision, but if it ends up, if we go one way that's not the best decision in hindsight, we'll figure it out eventually. It's not going to lead to the end of the business, and we'll learn a lesson probably through that.
Right. And another thing is, when we have gotten to the point where we defer to the team, our team right now is they don't have the title, but they're our executive team, they're our management. And that's something that as we get larger in scale, we're not going to be able to defer to the 200th employee, but, you're just going to need the additional perspective. If two perspectives are not enough, you just draw upon more and more perspectives until something just makes enough sense to go with it. So, our employees, the ones that started with us, they built the company with us. They didn't necessarily make some of the high-level decisions, but they were involved in every single aspect of that decision, and it affected them. So they have enough knowledge to be able to have a valuable insight, and so we're able to trust that insight. I think it's very important to do that.
And that comes back to the self-knowledge thing, because Donald and I could sit up and I've worked for people like this. We could sit up at the top and say, we know what we're talking about, and totally silence the employees' voices and make a decision that would end up being the wrong decision and that would be a result of being prideful and thinking that we know best. And I think a lot of leaders have this weird thing where they don't want to admit that they don't know sometimes, and they don't want to get that advice from the people below them. And I think the people below them, in a lot of situations I've been in, the people at the bottom actually know what is going on and what needs to be done more than the people at the top. And that's where you just have, and we make it a priority in one of our core values for the company is to be real with each other. And what that means to us is that if we're making the wrong decision, if we screwed up in the past, anybody in the company can bring it up. Like,
Yeah.
Donald and I don't sit at the top and say, well, we're the authority, we're the decision maker. Yes, we are, but we're not perfect and we don't know everything all the time. And we do want that feedback, especially if our employees think we're making the wrong decision. We're going to listen to them and not say, okay, well, we know what we're doing or we know what we're talking about more.
Right.
That's the wrong thing to do.
And even on the stuff, which is really most things, even on the stuff that we've agreed with, from the get-go, we still bring it up to, our people as early as we possibly can. And we try to get their perspective on it, their feedback on it. And in a sense, we ask if it's okay if we do it. Because, there's just that aspect of making sure that the people we're working with are happy with the direction in which we're going. It's a better way to inspire loyalty, certainly a better way to have better retention. And, I keep forgetting, but we haven't lost one person that quit since we started the company. And I think that's pretty powerful.
Nice.
Even through some pretty hard stuff, everybody stayed. So,
yeah.
And so, I think the overall thing with a partnership is you have to go through that dating period, or at least try to do your research and due diligence on the person and make sure that they have a solid track record. Try to, like you're talking about, Tony, even if the business that you're doing with this person is not ultimately the thing that makes you tons of money, it's good to work on a project with someone together, even if there's no legal agreement or anything, just to see how the other person works.
Before it gets too big.
Yeah, and through that friction, you can learn a lot about yourself and the other person. And then what you can do is you can either decide, okay, I want to go forward with this project, or you might, through that process, discover something else that you both are good at or another idea. And then you'll have the lessons that you'll learn through that trial period. And you can go forward with the other idea in a much better way. But yeah, I mean, it's like marriage. It can end in disaster, and most of the time it does. And you can only do so much to mitigate the risks, and you got to hope that it works out.
Yeah.
So for us, we looked at the risks and the rewards, and we decided that the upside of starting the company was bigger than the risks, and that we couldn't achieve those upsides without partnering with each other, because neither of us could have done this by ourselves, and we needed the other person's skill set, and we had the same end goal in mind when we started, and I think that's all you can really do.
I'd like to emphasize that we would not have launched January 1st. I don't think we would have gotten this thing off the ground that quickly without both of us involved. It's just, yeah. It was a pretty aggressive timeline. I think we set our launch date with less than 60 days to hit it, and we didn't have
the holidays.
It was a holiday?
Well, yeah, it was October is when we had the idea, and we launched January 1st.
Yeah, so it was
the worst time of the year to start something as well.
Yeah, it was pretty aggressive. I had a week-long trip planned in the middle of it, and there was just a lot of aspects to it. There were a few things that were critical from a technology standpoint that we didn't even know what we were going to use. I had this idea in my mind that I was going to code really what amount to like over 20,000 lines of code that I was going to just do it myself. So it was really, it was crazy.
So Tony, I think there's also a lesson in that for you with the partners that you're with right now is do something really, really hard. Like do something really difficult and put your partnership through the fire a little bit and test it out.
Yeah.
And that'll kind of expose a lot of things in that other person. And those things may not be deal breakers for you, but they might be. Yeah. And there's really no other way to find those things out because you don't want to get 6 months or a year into business with somebody and then go through a hard time and discover things that you didn't know about. So I think that's a good idea. And the way we did it,
set like really, really ambitious goals or things of that nature.
We did that not intentionally. We just decided, okay, if we're going to do this thing, then we just need to set a date and do it. Now, setting a 60-day date is insane. And I didn't sleep hardly any that whole 2 months.
Just work on it every hour.
That may not be the way to do it. We didn't do that intentionally, but I think it is really beneficial to set a goal and then set an aggressive timeline and see if that other person can deliver the way you deliver.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, some companies you can launch in a week, but for what we had to do, it was just a lot to get done in 60 days. And we basically got it done December 31st.
Yeah.
Did you set a timeline from the very, very start of your relationship, or did you do a couple of weeks of meetings and talking before you set deadlines? Like, how did you do that?
It was within a week. It was
Yeah, we had the idea and picked a date within a week, and the date we picked was 2 months away.
Yeah, it was really fast. We went from not even having the concept in mind to having a site and a launch date inside of 1 week.
Okay, so question: let's say you want to set a date for something, and your potential partner doesn't think that's necessary. What's that a sign of? Is that a good thing, bad thing? What's going on there?
Probably shouldn't be a partner.
Well, maybe. You got to put your case though. Every time me and Donald have an idea and the other person is skeptical, we have to present our case. We just have to put the evidence out there that our idea is a good idea. So you're just going to have to make the case to him that, and the case I would make is the case that basically Donald made to me, which is if we don't set an aggressive launch date for this, then we're going to piddle around and never get anything done.
Yeah.
We keep pushing it off. And so we just have, and what we did to keep ourselves accountable is we announced it publicly, this is the date. And then we had a choice because we were either going to do it or we were going to look like jackasses to everyone.
Like idiots. Yeah.
Yeah.
We had to be very public about it.
Very cool.
Yeah, so I mean, anything you can do to apply a little bit of pressure to that partnership at the beginning is good. And I think, I even read an article about this before I got married. An article that was recommended to me had a really weird title. It was like something like couples should fight a lot in the beginning. And I didn't understand really what that was all about. But what I realized is if you have a euphoric relationship with someone at the beginning, you're going to have rose-tinted glasses and you're going to ignore all their mistakes. You're going to ignore all their flaws. But if you can go through the friction at the beginning and, basically have yourself and that other person's flaws exposed and go through the fights and everything at the beginning, you test the relationship and it's either going to give way or it's going to hold up. And, it sucks. It's not fun to go through, but I do think because you're either going to go into a long-term business with this person where you make a lot of money and it's a long-term thing, or you're not. And I think that's another conversation that you should have with that person is like, listen, I'm serious about this. So if we're going to do this, we're going to do this for real. And if you're not interested in, if you're just kind of interested in, playing around with a project, that's cool, but I am dead set on making this happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sorry to cut in.
No.
That was another thing that made me a lot more confident from the get-go. So, when I brought this up to Mike, again, it was an hour-long conversation and he was in. And not only was he in, but he was pumped. He was fired up.
Get out of the aid business.
I mean, he was fired up. He was coming up with ideas that I hadn't thought of. We were visualizing. And if you can be visualizing a concept and where you're going to be at within a few hours, then, the fire is really the fire that gets anything done when there's a big hump that you need to jump over. The only thing that's going to get you there is fire.
I got a question for you guys. This is just kind of a more detailed, random question. Do you guys use the same bank?
What was that?
You guys use, for the business. And are you guys in the same country?
Yeah, Donald's in Chicago.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you guys do when you pay yourselves, do you how does that work? How do you do that?
What? I'm sorry.
When you guys pay yourselves, how does that work?
We pay ourselves in Stripe.
So you do a credit card fee when you guys pay yourselves?
So we set up a business account through a large bank that is available in both of our cities.
Okay.
Bank of America, yeah.
Okay, I gotcha. Yeah, that's how that worked then. Okay, yeah. that was just a small,
we both have access to the business bank account that we set up.
Yeah.
And, I mean, say what you will about Bank of America, but they make it super easy to do that if your partner's in another city. It's very convenient. So did you say that one of the guys you're working with is in Canada?
Correct.
That's going to be interesting.
Well, I figured out the only way to do transactions is through like a Stripe or PayPal, which is 2.9% plus 30 cents, and so then it's like, okay, then I owe you how much, but then there's going to be, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just
that was just to take payment, not to send money out.
Do what?
Donald would know about this.
We're not even close to that, so I don't even, it's just a funny little thing we have to kind of think about. So.
Well, another thing that made it easier for us is Micah and I we have set amounts of money that we pay ourselves each month, so it doesn't fluctuate, and whatever we have left over just goes back into the business. And some months we don't even really take a full amount, and the business is first in terms of the finances of it all.
Absolutely.
We're not taking in investor funding, and we're not sitting on piles of dough. So it's just it's just
at your point, you're feeding the business as much as you can before you take anything, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
we'd rather our ideal scenario is to have people in place before we need them than to get overrun and then hire people in the midst of chaos and overwhelming stress. So if we have to delay, a raise for ourselves for a year or two, then we're going to do that because our people are going to get paid first and foremost. That's the priority, is that the paychecks go out on time and everybody gets paid what they're owed. I think investing in the business is the most important part, especially at the point that we're at, where if we don't invest in the business, I mean, it's not gonna go anywhere.
Yeah, and our company is labor intensive, so there is a very, very tight, direct parallel between an increase in revenue and the need to increase our staff. So, because it's so labor intensive, we wouldn't be able to survive without an emphasis on company first, very long-term outlook in terms of how we pay ourselves.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we take the bare minimum from the business right now. So the bare minimum to survive is what we take, because we're not worried about that right now. It's the last thing.
I think it gets down to like, I can't remember whose podcast I was listening to, but it's just kind of like stepping back and asking yourself, what do I really need to live? And if you sit back, it's like, you don't need much. It's like beans and rice and then rent and then utilities. And it's like pretty
Well, yeah, I mean that's a really interesting topic in and of itself, which is just it's short term thinking and short term gratification versus the long term. What are you willing to sacrifice right now in order to get a big payoff in the end? We're both on the same page there.
And remember, Micah and I both have businesses on additional business income. So we were able to just be a lot less reliant on the business for income.
Yeah, I was working a job and had the cleaning company when we started Vicky Virtual. So every spare second I had went into Vicky Virtual after I had already got done working for the day. And we both still own our cleaning company, so we do get, some income from that, which alleviates the need for us to take a lot from Vicky right now. But that's another thing that I don't think most people are prepared to do. As far as business success goes, are you prepared to even work a full-time job and then get home and work 8 hours on your business? Because most people don't want to do that. But that's what it takes sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah. So, eventually it did get to the point where we were starting to really grow, and our workload was picking up to things that we needed to do with piling up. So we actually just started paying Micah a little bit so he could quit his job. I was just basically living off of my other companies and not taking any salary for a while. But honestly, with what was it, a month and a half after you started taking that salary, I was taking it. So,
hey, quick question on Blab. In this upper left where it has that 24-person symbol and then that eyeball symbol 4, what do those mean?
I've been trying to figure out what the 24 is. I know that the eyeball is views, so there's 4 people watching.
Okay.
But I don't know what that is up there.
Okay. Just curious.
The other number, when you click on it, it doesn't tell you any more information. So I don't know.
No worries.
But
back to I'm seeing it subscribed, and I don't even know what that means.
Maybe that's what I think. It might be subscribed. 24 people subscribed. Maybe
that's probably it. Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, I mean that's like I said. Yeah, if you can put the pressure on the business relationship in the beginning, even if you have to create it artificially,
I like that. That's interesting. I never really thought of that.
It's gonna obviously you're trying to make it more difficult, which sucks, but in the long run, I think it's the way to go, because if you can either go through the difficult period at the beginning and have learn those things about each other, or you'll get a year in and something will happen, and then you'll learn, oh my God, this other person can't handle it.
Yeah. And if we ever went for investors at any point, there was a time, maybe 2 weeks, where we were thinking, let's do an investor. They're going to appreciate that. They like scrappy people. They like people that aren't taking a lot of money. And, they want people that are going to make whatever they give them stretch. So the reality is that you have to put yourself in a position to make the company work without money in order to have the best chance of getting money.
Yeah, this is something that Gary Vaynerchuk pounds all the time. In fact, he just put out a video where he said it's shocking how many companies exist just to raise the next round of funding. But what's even more shocking is the entrepreneurs that own those companies went skiing last weekend. And I thought it was very interesting that he said that, because it's true. I mean, there's so many companies that the founders, they're working hard, but they don't really have the need to put in the work like someone does when they're self-funded and they don't have a cushion at all. And they're working to survive and get to the next point in their business, not to raise another round of funding.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand. I mean, it would be nice to have, an extra 20, 30, 40, 50 grand, but I think it would make me soft. I really do. I
think it's a good position to be in. It reminds me of I haven't got it yet, but it makes me think of The Power of Broke, that kind of philosophy going on. So have you guys read that or looked into it?
I haven't read it.
We both read it. Oh, I read it.
I haven't read it yet, but I got it. Yeah, I just haven't had time to read it. But yeah, I mean, that's super. I think it's super. I think we are in somewhat of a bubble as far as investment, and especially in the tech scene right now. And when you have founders of companies that are skiing every weekend, something is going to pop here. This is not sustainable.
Sure.
And I think for the most part, the people that survive are the people who had to do whatever it took to survive from the beginning. And and I think, when you start with nothing, like we started with nothing, we started with a few $100s between ourselves. We didn't even know when we announced our launch date, we didn't even know who was going to take the calls. We didn't know it. I mean, it was crazy. It was crazy.
No, we didn't know anything.
But when you have no money, and if you're like me and that's how you grew up with no money, then you have a distinct advantage, which I think Damon John talks about in that book. I don't know, I haven't read it, but I think one of the things that you have over people who grew up with money is that you have a sort of a chip on your shoulder and something to prove. There's an aggressiveness.
Absolutely.
You're growing up that way where it's like, man, I have to make it happen. Like nothing's going to help me, and it just has to get done.
Yeah. And on my end, in the times in my life that I've been broke, it just allowed me to learn how to be creative, right? So a lot of times people aren't creative about how to make their money work. They think of scenario A. If that doesn't work out, then they're just, what am I going to do? I need investors. I need blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And I honestly think that if you have a tremendous amount of self-funding, that can be detriment as well. And that's actually something that Damon brings up in his book, in The Power of Broke. Once he got rich, he started blowing $1 million on a rap video, spending $3 million on the album, and then doing like $1 million in sales. Which, and $1 million in sales is a respectable number, but the reality is that if you're not creative with how each dollar is spent, then it's that much harder to make that dollar you spent worth it.
And that goes back to adding the pressure to your business relationship. I mean, nobody wants to hear this. Nobody wants to hear that you should make it difficult. They want to find the easiest way to do it. But, man, you're going to have an advantage if you don't take the investment if your business literally can't go on without investment, then yeah, take it. But if you have to work 100 hours a week to do it without investment, I think you should for at least a year, just to learn what that's like, because you learn so much about yourself when you go through that. I mean, I think it's a huge advantage. But again, you'll never read that in a business book. You'll never read the advice of, make it hard, make it difficult, put pressure on it, because that's not going to sell books. But I mean, the diamond analogy is true, and it's kind of corny, but diamonds are made under tremendous pressure, and if you can create the pressure, then good things will come out of it. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think the other side of that coin is you don't want to go too crazy, right? So one philosophy that I enjoy on the other side of that is you want to have enough money not to constantly be thinking about money, right? If in your personal life you're spending 50% of your general energy just figuring out how to eat, then of course you can't maximize your productivity no matter how much passion you have. So you have to have a certain baseline. But above that baseline, then you need to be extremely careful with how much money you're spending.
Good to know. I'll tell you, I'm you say soft, I think I'm in that soft spot because like things are very comfortable around here. We're doing like pretty good, and I love the idea of like adding that pressure. That's I think that's what I need in these projects. So that's very good to know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the natural thing that we fall into. If we're comfortable, we're not going to change that. So
Yeah,
it's you know, it's difficult, but you have to do it. If you're serious, you have to do it. You know,
yeah,
you have to find a way to make it hard. Because I mean, it, and at the other end of that is sometimes it doesn't have to be. If you've got the cash and you have an idea that's just going to pour money in, then maybe it's not going to have to be difficult. But I think at a certain point, your business is going to go through something where it's going to be a trial and it's going to be difficult. And it's like marriage. I mean, you know, sometimes marriage is easy, but there's going to be a point where you're going to go through something, and if you're not prepared and you haven't gone through it, then it could completely be destroyed. So it just depends on how, and just like with marriage, it just depends on how long-term and how serious you are with this business with these people. And that's another thing to ask yourself, because you've got your photography thing that's doing good, and you've got these two other projects that you're working on. And I would focus on, if you can, I would just focus on one thing.
yeah.
Two at the max.
That's
Once you start getting to three
so
or
that's,
four, yeah.
that's what I'm trying to figure out is what I really want to focus on. It's like the hardest, and it's a comfortable decision, but it's a hard decision. Like that's been one of my so that's one of my weaknesses is not being able to focus. I can focus, but it's like I have this like knee-jerk thing. It's like, okay, I want to start this, this, and this. And I know that if I can, well, I mean, I've already, okay, so like, you know, I've been up in a helicopter, and I'm planning on like hitting up construction companies in big firms, and I know I'll get hired for that kind of stuff because there's not a lot of people doing that. And I know I can like start like doing that pretty well, but like, but for me, it's like, I don't know. I get distracted with these other little side things. It's like, you know.
Well, Donald and I still get.
I just don't know. I'm still trying to figure it all out. So if you guys have any insights on focus and what makes sense and things like that, I'm all ears on that. So.
Donald and I still get sidetracked by stuff. I mean, we have ideas weekly that we're like, dude, we should do this.
Yeah. Every week.
And every single week we have that conversation, and it's like, yeah. I mean, it's just that ADD that I know, Tony, you and I have talked about the ADD thing, where there's a lot of advantages to being that way, but it can also distract you in a big way from getting stuff done.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a constant battle. I don't think there's an answer to that, because I think it is a strength that entrepreneurs, if they can leverage it right, will do wonders for the business. Because if you're constantly, you know, trying to think of new things and get ahead, you can use that in your business.
Well, my fantasy is to start a little project and make that successful, and then I can just take commissions as they come with photography. Because it sounds ridiculous, but no, it's more of a, like, again, getting back to I think I might have fooled myself because I do have a passion. You know, we talk about passion. I have this passion for photography, but the business side of it does not excite me. And but I love photography. So I maybe I fooled myself into doing it for so long. I don't know. So
well, let me one thing on my end. I am not extremely passionate about any of my companies.
Okay, see, that's what I'm trying to get at. Is I think I've just realized this thing. It's like, you know what? I don't have to be passionate about something. I just Yeah, I like that. I'm starting to realize that that train of thought. It's kind of a new thinking among entrepreneurs, or a new, I don't know if you call it catchphrase or whatever. But I hear that a lot coming through, and it's hitting me. Like it makes a lot of sense. It's a passion thing, not the fault.
Yeah, I'm not passionate about the company as I'm passionate about the opportunity, right? So when you
Exactly.
the entire idea of entrepreneurship in general is just seeing a way to leverage. That's it. We're finding out a way to take a resource, leverage it through other people to create more for ourselves. And, you know, there can be some intrinsic benefit to the world, and I think that there's a passion in that. There's an opportunity in that. But the reality is that, you know, I was looking at virtual receptionist companies. I saw what was out there. I saw that this is something that there's going to be a surge in demand for. Not a lot of people know about it. I'm looking at the companies that exist. I'm reverse engineering them. I say this to Micah. He's able to reverse engineer it himself. He sees it. He's fired up in a half hour. So the opportunity is what we're passionate about, and pursuing that opportunity takes away what it is that we're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Actually, that clarified a lot for me just there. I love how you said entrepreneurship is just seeing an opportunity to leverage. So that makes a lot of sense to me. So and you're passionate not about doing the business, but passionate about the what you call it, the opportunity or the yeah. And so that's.
Have you read the E-Myth by Michael Gerber?
Yeah, I have it actually. I've actually read it about 2 years ago, so I need to. I totally lost all comprehension on it, but I do have it on my shelf right here.
So you don't even have to read it, because every business book basically takes one concept and beats it to death for 300 pages. But the whole concept of the book is that somebody has a passion, they have a skill, there's something that they're good at, and they decide to go into business for themselves. And what they end up doing is getting trapped because they have a skill and they try to start a business. They end up being the only person doing that skill in the business. So instead of actually growing a business where you're hiring out work and outsourcing stuff, you're actually more like a freelancer, but you're also, you know, obviously doing all the paperwork, all the legal stuff. And that's the trap that a lot of people get themselves into.
Well, you're not an entrepreneur at that point. I'm not an entrepreneur officially. Like I don't make money when I sleep. You know, I'm a freelancer to be honest. So
but there's nothing wrong with that, and you can make money doing that, and you can be satisfied doing that, and nobody can tell you that that's not okay. But if you have that itch, that entrepreneurial itch, and you want to build something and scale something, then you don't have to give up your passion and your skill. That can be something that you can always do, but making it your main source of income may not be the best way to go about it. But again, you're in a tough spot, because if that is the way you make most of your income, the transition period is going to be extremely difficult.
And another difficult thing about passions is that if you are the talent of your company, right, then it's extremely hard to delegate that talent out to someone else. You're going to have all kinds of controlling urges. You're going to see the flaws in the people that you're hiring, and you're not going to appreciate other people's talent in that vertical. So, so again, the main thing that we're trying to do is build a business, and so really the only approach to it is the business part.
No, it's this is all kind of hit me, but I like the excitement in building, and just letting things go to other people and see them grow, you know, and have a little machine working. I just find that it's so exciting, and so that's what I will be focusing on for sure in the future.
The other thing I think that I don't know how you can do without it if you're an entrepreneur is entrepreneurship is I think, is the most difficult thing you could do. Now, there are other things that are challenging in different ways. Like stand-up comedy is one of these things where I've realized over the last few years, I've not done it myself, but I've listened to stand-up comics and I've talked to them, and I realized how difficult that is to do. To walk out onto a stage and try to make people laugh is extremely difficult. So there are things that have elements of difficulty to them, but entrepreneurship is one of these things where everything is difficult. There's nothing easy about it. And so if you want to go into entrepreneurship, it sounds weird, but I think you sort of need the trait where you like things to be difficult.
Yeah, we're masochists.
It's weird. It's masochism almost would be the word for it. I mean, if you're looking for an easy way to make money, then starting a business is not it. I mean, there's a lot of you can do a lot of things that make a lot of money that are way easier, but the reason we do it is because a lot of it I think is bragging rights. A lot of people go into entrepreneurship and they like it to be difficult and they like to be able to say I did it. And I'm one of those people where I want to do the most difficult thing just to be able to say it. Like one of my dreams is to climb Mount Everest. My wife thinks I'm crazy. I'm like, I know it's crazy and it would be terrible. It would be a horrible experience, but I have to be able to say I did it.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing, but I think it's necessary. You have to like the hardship. You have to be able to take the punches and smile and spit the blood out and enjoy it.
Mike is the type of guy that would hate to win the lotto.
I don't know what
that would be.
I'd be angry. Yeah, like I can't, and that's another weird thing is, I think it is a pride thing, and a lot of entrepreneurs have it where if they make money the easy way, they don't respect themselves. Like I could go and I could go back to my old employer at Garmin, and I can get a nice job with a nice income and live very comfortably, but I would have no respect for myself.
Right.
It would just be so easy to do.
Yeah.
And that's a huge part of it, man. It really is. I wouldn't respect myself especially if I went the whole way and went into my 60s or 70s and retired and never went through that once and never accomplished that. It would be the worst thing I can imagine.
And I had that it's been my exact same thought pretty much my entire adult life. The absolute worst thing that could possibly happen to me is working for someone else. There's literally no alternative for me. There was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. I went to college and I didn't finish. I went to Wisconsin. I went to a private school growing up, $25,000 a year. Every single person in that school goes to a good college every year. Went to Wisconsin. I thought I was finished, but then the realities of myself and who I am sort of hit me, and I dropped out and everyone was giving me shit. But there was just absolutely nothing else I'm willing to do. My parents came from six-figure job opportunities, and there's no way I would ever want to do what they're doing.
And I know you're that way, Tony.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You don't have a job.
No. No, been at it for since 2013. So, no, I'm definitely that way. But you guys are giving me some clarity here. No, it's funny. I've started these old projects just within the last few months, and so yeah. For me, like I'm just starting this, and it's also like it's pretty nice because I'm now realizing that. The whole photography kind of mind boggle. It's like, okay, this make a lot more sense. I think again, it's like I have a passion for photography, but not for the opportunity there. I do have the passion for other opportunities, and so now the transition is where all this will kind of be bumps in the roads and things. But
yeah, and you're married too, and that gets even trickier. Good thing you don't have kids yet.
Well, No, yeah, not yet. That's hey, you know what? If anything, that could add some pressure to everything, right?
That's one way to do it. I think that might
Lose a
be
little bit of comfort, you know. They call it the baby effect, right?
Yeah, I thought about that actually. I really thought. I was like, man, like I've been putting it off because I'm like, oh, I'm too busy for that.
Well,
I was like,
ne-
that might get me over a hump if I did though.
no one. There's never. The truth is, no one was ever ready to have a baby. There's never a good time to have a baby, and so that's the truth of it. And so the reality is, you just got to do it. And
Yeah, there's definitely an
You know?
instinctual male drive to gather as many resources as possible for your offspring.
definitely.
I know it would kick, and I'm just like, oh my god, is that? It just sounds like too much stress, though.
It does.
But
It's
maybe that's the next step in adding the pressure. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that is a step eventually somewhere in the plan. So
Yeah, I mean, you got to get uncomfortable. I mean, I think the biggest takeaway for you is you got to make something difficult,
Yeah.
or else you're just gonna sit around and
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so one other thing I want to ask you guys is, so like these projects, who knows, they could fail or whatever. So where else can I find like-minded people and maybe find like a virtual partner? Now here's the other thing. I don't need a partner to succeed at something, but if I have an idea that I think might need one, how do I go about, like you say, like what criteria should I look at? How do you figure out criteria, and where are some good places to look for these people?
I think first off, you should look for any alternative to a partnership.
Okay. No. It's interesting you say that because as I think, like some of these things I could have done myself. I think there was a few things I was lacking, but if I just pushed myself hard enough, I think I could have knocked out the main hurdles. So
The other thing is the people that you're working with now. I mean, if this are the projects you're working on, are they primarily your idea first that you brought someone into?
yeah.
Okay. So in that situation, what I would do, you haven't signed anything legally, right? Not yet. Have you had the conversation of how you're going to split this up with these people?
We have.
If it comes to that, at least.
No, we have not had that. We haven't.
Good.
Our mindset isn't. Hey, let's maybe get like a pre-sale or something like that, or someone that's interested in buying, and then either before that point or at that point, or maybe just slightly after that point, that's when we would discuss.
Usually want proof of concept first.
Yeah.
So,
because up until that point, it can just be dust.
So my thinking is whether you're going to go into a legal partnership or you're going to have strategic alliances with people, you're both giving each other something. You're giving up something to enter that partnership. So Donald and I gave up equity in the business, or at least Donald did originally. He gave up the 50% equity in the business to get my skill set and expertise and work. So if you have something you can give aside from equity in the business to that person, whether it be money or whether it be something you can offer them that's not equity, then I would see if you can do that. There may not be a way. If you need that person and you have nothing else to offer them, then it may just be equity. But I think the first thing I would do is see if there's something else. And one of those options I see a lot is instead of giving somebody 50% equity in the company or whatever the equity is, you can say, okay, I need your skill set, and whatever business you bring in, I'll pay you a certain, basically they would be like a commission salesperson. So you're giving them money, but you're not paying them a salary or anything like that. It's a partnership where there's no need for a legal agreement. And that in that case, if you do have a personal conflict with that person at any point down the road, it's not like you're all of a sudden losing half of your business now. You're just losing a salesperson essentially. So it's not as drastic of a hit. So if you can find a way to structure it that way, I would try to do anything other than a partnership. If it comes down to it and you only have the option of a partnership, then
Well, when you say partnership, you're talking about an actual legal partnership.
Legal partnership.
Okay.
Yeah, as opposed to like a strategic alliance is the term I guess a lot of people use. And the strategic alliance is when...
Is that a term just for saying bypassing the legality of the partnership entity? Is that what that means?
Well, yeah, basically a strategic alliance is you basically have a business partnership, but there's no equity involved.
Okay.
Either person can dissolve the relationship without any ramifications legally. Those are really good. I mean, I do a lot of those.
It's like a pursuit within the company. So it's not necessarily the company, but it's like, okay, we're going to work on this particular project. And if the project doesn't work out, you can split, but I still have the company.
Would it be like, hey, my company's Thompson Photography, and I wanted you, Donald, to distribute, photos in your city, and we could make $10,000, and we just split,
exactly,
something like that, like a little mini project within the company. Is that kind of what you're saying? Is that what that means?
Exactly, and it doesn't have to involve money either. So one example of a strategic alliance is me and Timothy. So, for example, I give up my time to Timothy, and I do a lot of marketing for him. And we gave him a free Viki Virtual account, so he answers phone calls for his coaching company. And in return, he promotes our company to the people that he coaches and speaks to. So there's an alliance there. It's not a partnership. There's nothing on paper, and we can both dissolve it at any point without huge ramifications. But each side brings something to the table to benefit the other.
That makes sense. Okay.
And another way that this works really well is if you find a company where your product or service complements each other. So, for example, we talked about this today. There's a company called Zirtual that does virtual assistants. So these people do tasks, but they don't answer the phone. So that's a great company that our company can partner with because, yes, it's similar, but we don't overlap what we offer.
Right.
So we can exchange. Basically, what I would like to do with that company is say, I'll send a email to our list of email subscribers and customers if you do the same for us. And it's just quid pro quo, swapping value for value. So if you can do those and avoid a partnership situation, I would do that. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's sort of like the same thing what a lot of people do in terms of vendor relationship. Like even for like a wedding. I was looking for a venue for a wedding, and the City of Chicago venues have vendors on their vendor list. And you have to go through all kinds of hoops to be one of the vendors on that list. But long story short, those are people that any person that wants to book that venue has to use. They have to use one of those vendors.
Yep.
So that's a partnership where, obviously none of those vendors or companies have a piece of the venue, but there's sort of a guaranteed relationship. And then I'm assuming that the venue gets some type of kickback on the revenue that those companies produce when they land their events.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now I think that I sort of want to answer the partner thing. So if you find yourself in a situation that you want to have a partnership, there really needs to be a lot of prerequisites. So the prerequisite with myself and my decision to approach Micah was that I already respected him as someone that was entrepreneurial and that got shit done, right?
So there was a track record, which is what we talked about earlier, the track record.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the other thing was that, we were sort of around the same. We were around the same point in our entrepreneurial career, I guess. So there wasn't like a lot of a mismatch in terms of just the intrinsic value that we give to each other, and I guess the panache that we have amongst each other. I don't know.
Yeah.
Same level, kind of career level.
Right.
So
Right.
If you have too much disparity between experience or even money between a partnership, that can create problems. That can create big problems.
Right.
So yeah, if you can, yeah. I mean, then this is all again. This all comes back to the marriage thing. To have an ideal, perfect marriage, you can have 1,000 prerequisites for this person. So yeah, if you can meet as many of those as possible, that's ideal. But sometimes, you just have a feeling about a person and it works out.
Yeah.
There's no conviction, I mean, you can do as much due diligence as possible to mitigate the risks, but you're never going to be able to prevent it 100%. You're never going to know everything, and it's a big risk, and that's why I say if you can avoid that, then do that. But if you have to do the partnership, yeah, you have to do as much due diligence as possible.
Yeah, and we had the benefit of positioning ourselves just in the networking sense, right? So, just for the cleaning company group, there was a Skype chat with 40 people on there, and we were chatting throughout the day, every day, mentoring each other, helping each other, answering each other's questions. So we're able to learn about the mannerisms, demeanors, and personalities, at least to an extent, about all of those people, and then you can sort of narrow down a list. So none of it was like a cold lead, so to speak. There was no, you know what I mean?
So yeah, so the track record and then the self-awareness thing, I think, is the most important thing in business in general. If you don't know what you're good at and what you suck at, you're going to fail in business, because business doesn't care about your feelings. The marketplace doesn't care about how you feel about it. If you suck at something and you're not honest with yourself and you keep doing it, then you're going to get crushed. And so you have to be honest with yourself and with your partner. I think it's huge. Self-awareness can't be understated. And then as far as where to find these people, I mean, there's a million ways now. I mean, you have meetup.com, so you can go and meet people in person at networking groups and things. There's
just wherever, really.
We met through Reddit, I think.
Yeah, I mean, one of the first things we did was, I think, I can't hear you.
No.
I'm yawning.
Yeah, one of the first things we did, I think, was we paid 50-50 for some ThemeForce theme, like a WordPress theme.
That's right. Yeah. So we were chatting with each other about like building our Made company sites, and we're like, well, we both want to use this WordPress template, so we're like, let's just split it. Yeah. I think that's one of the things we did, and that little thing that we did where we split money on something, even though it was like $25 each, was a building block to trust.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, if you can do that trial, that dating period with somebody, and put a little skin into the game, and each person has to put a little skin in the game, that's a way to build that trust with that person before you go full force into business with each other. I think a really interesting way to meet people, meet business partners and things now. This is actually, I've met some awesome people through so Gary Vaynerchuk has been doing insane amounts of promotion for this book he just came out with. So what I did is, whenever he had a social media contest, he'll have like a specific hashtag that he'll ask people to put on social media, and then they get a free book if they win or something. So I went on Instagram, and every single person who was entering the contest and using the hashtag, I would go through the whole feed on Instagram and like and comment on each picture. And I ended up having like 3 people message me, and I've been talking to these people, and I'm never going to go into business with these people, but just I've made some really cool friendships and relationships built out of this. So any place where like-minded people are meeting up online, I mean, it could be anything like that, anything.
Yeah, I think there's an app to it. You just try to gain as much as you can from each person. You get those benchmarks, and you position yourself to have relationship with someone without going into business with them. And so, if it does come up that you have the opportunity to go into business with them, you don't have to think that much about it.
Cool. So, like, one thing I could, well, here's where I get question myself. Is like, well, one thing I could do off the bat is start thinking about strategic alliance with someone just for photography. But then again, perhaps I should be more of the thought of transitioning towards something else. But no, I get you guys. I hear you. So good takeaways here.
Well, this was fun.
Yeah, first one.
Yeah.
In the bag. All right. I'm going to stop the recording, but in case anybody does actually listen to this, we're going to try to do these at least weekly or bi-weekly. It may fall to monthly if we get busy because we do actually run a business, but we'll try to do them at least bi-weekly is our goal. So we'll announce it, and hope everybody can come to the next one.